Hello, everyone. My name is DEBOTAIWO, and today I would have with someone that I've always known. Is a marketing and brand guru. He's been in the brand marketing space for well over a decade now. His name is Ben Iyoha. Ben has always exceeded expectations when it comes to delivering on projects that comes to marketing. But today we will be talking a little bit about his specialty and background. But of course, we'll be talking about his past, how he was able to navigate some, challenges, probably as a youth, and of course, we would also talk about the impact of artificial intelligence as it concerns the impact of artificial intelligence on jobs in Nigeria today, or even at the world at large. So it's just going to be an episode that will be entertaining, that will be educating, and that would be fun as well. So I want you guys to sit tight and enjoy. Is excellent. Good to see you, my brother.
Yes.
All right. Good to see you, man. How have you been, man?
Yeah, I'm doing good, bro.
I can tell that you're looking good. All right, so what informed because you're like my first guest, you're like the debut guy that is like supporting me with this dream. So we're gonna get to this real quick. It's just gonna be fun, educating, entertaining, and stuff. And I'm gonna start with how I kind of got acquainted to you. And I don't even know if you remember this, but many years, I think in 2005, in Lagos State University, Lasso Ojo. I was in 100 level at the time. I believe you were a year ahead of me. You were just coming into SLEDU, and you would come in and take a class. You could come in to take probably Zoo 101, and you would talk about different animals. You talk about the classes of those animals, and you were charismatic. You had very good oratory power, and I'm like, okay, who's this guy? Who's just this guy? So I think your toga, your name at the time in course, because it took me a while to even know that your name was Ben. At that time, you were known as Africa. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Exactly. What informed that name, Africa? Let's start from there.
Okay, so pretty much it was not too long. I think it was around the year 2000, 2001-ish, where the story about George Iwilade broke. George Iwilade used to be known as Africa way back in Obafemi Awolowo University. He led the movements, the student movement, anti-cult movement, and he was the general secretary of the Obafemi Awolowo University Student Union government at the time. Okay. So he was killed for his activism. He was killed by cultists when they did attack the campus then. And being a unionist in LASU, I wanted to be a unionist in LASU. I took after him. If you notice at the time, I was also carrying an afro. And George Iwilade too was known for carrying the afro. If you see his pictures online today, he carried the afro and it was known as Africa. But the twist was that I called myself Africa 0.8, and people wonder why did I add the 0.8 to my name at the time? And it was simply because I just took my year of birth and my month of birth and I added it together and it became 8. So I was 3rd of May. So I just added the two together and it became 8. And I just added it to that just to differentiate myself from the main Africa.
The main original Africa. Interesting. Yeah. That's an interesting summary of how the name came to be. And then I can also definitely call you a jack of all trades, probably master of all. At some other point as well, fast forward now, I think in 2014, I went to a party of a friend's father who turned 60 at the time. Femi, my friend. And then I saw you playing at the party as a DJ. And I'm like, What's happening here? So can you just kind of tell us how you morphed from, I think you finished, you studied microbiology in last
I
year,
stopped
right?
about
Yeah. So how did you morph from this guy who was very charismatic about Africa, the name Africa, and then you tried DJing at a point before you are now doing what you are doing today as a brand and corporate guru. So you're going to tell us how you morphed from all of that stuff, and then we get going from there.
So I'm the kind of person who always want to get my hands on, and pretty much at the time, DJing was not something that was really popular when I started. And if you had checked very well, you notice that I started to DJ even for I think my 200-300 level thereabouts, DJed in events on campus, and it was something that a family friend came to the house and was talking about, going into something like this, and you make a lot of money from it. And then I just thought about it, why not? Let me go into this, And that was how I went into it. And over the years, I created a name, DJed in radio stations, did a lot of parties, even on campus, off campus, did a lot of events. But at some point, I told myself that this is not what I really wanted to do.
Oh, wow.
And pretty much, I kind of, there's a backstory to how I stopped being a DJ.
Okay.
You had to do it pretty much had to do with my relationships. So at the time, I'd had relationships, and people didn't believe that you could actually
make a name,
run a family, live okay.
Yeah.
So it was more or less a feedback. In fact, it was one particular person. It was even my NYC. That was although before my NYC, I'm also the kind of person that do not believe in doing just one thing.
Okay.
I wanted to have multiple stuff, and I still do that till this day. So
nice.
Before my NYC, I was already working in advertising. I'd gotten the shot to work in advertising company. I'd done my 1 year plus in advertising before I went for NYC. Okay. So while I was in advertising, I was still DJing and I was doing my advertising job.
Interesting.
But during my NYC, I now thought, okay, I've done 9 to 5 corporate before NYC. Lucky I could do this. I know what it's like. Let me give DJ a full-time shot. Let me give DJing a full-time shot. And it was after then you saw me at that event. I think Femi's in Canada now too.
Femi's in Canada. He's in Canada.
So he saw me at his father's 60th birthday and my DJ. So it was after my NYC, I now decided, okay, let me give this thing a full-time shot. Let me see how it goes. Let me see if I can.
Yeah, to be honest, the gig wasn't bad. Like the music that at the time, I think we had songs like Aye and all of that stuff. But at that time as well, because of the crowd set of people, you were also able to give them like some Shina Peters and everything. Parents were there, people were having fun, and I think you did pretty well at that time.
So that's something about me while I was DJing. I always studied the crowd. There was no party I would go to, no matter the tribe that is composed in that event. My playlist was, in fact, before the event, I would have asked, is it, for instance, a wedding? Oh, the lady is a Robo, the husband is a Doma. I would have gotten Idoma songs, and they'll be surprised that there's a DJ that could play Idoma and mix the Robo. We can still go back to the populist song that everybody knows, and they're always happy for. So I was always getting gig based on my playlist.
Yeah, well, that's impressive. So how did you then morph? So obviously we're talking about you've always had oratory power. I don't know if you did politics in school, in Lagos State University, I'm not sure. But I know that you were very charismatic in school, you were always hands-on, you were able to impact, you're always willing to give back. So you moved from there, then you got into advertising before you started your NYC, and then you started the DJing stuff. How are you to them? Yes, how are you then able to move successfully into the digital space? Why did you eventually? Yeah, you already mentioned that you got a feedback on why you had to abandon the DJing, but what propelled you to then make the digital marketing stuff or the brand creation stuff the major?
Okay. So I'll tell you 2 stories quickly. So after my NYC, I went full-time into DJing, and something propelled me. And what that propelled me was actually relationships I had. I used to have relationships in my NYC, and post-NYC, she got a job, and she was doing 95. I was just doing the hustling, the DJ thing.
Where did you serve, by the way, though? Where did you serve? Where did you do your NYC?
Ekiti States.
Ekiti. Okay.
Yeah, So pretty much at some point, our mother was like, "Oh, this guy you're always talking about, can you just bring this guy? Let's meet this guy." So eventually, she brought the mom. She brought me home, and then the mother kind of find out, "What do you do?" I said, "I'm a DJ." You understand how Nigerian families are like, "Oh,
1,000%, I do."
They are going to say no to you immediately. So, and I really liked that relationship. I really did like that. But on the premise of that relationship ended because the mother stood her ground that we can't continue this dude doesn't know. The mom used a phrase: "You want to get involved or married to somebody who's going to be always speakers around Lagos." So that was in the mom's lingua. But then, to how I got into advertising, I used to write poetry. I used to write poems, and I still do. And one day I was somewhere in my brother's crib, and I was expressing some of my poetry works. And somebody said, "You wrote all this?" I said, "Yes." And I didn't. That was the first time I was meeting that person. His name is Bright. He's late now. I think he died like 3-4 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And he said, "If you can write these poems, you can do copywriting." So it was on the premise of that. I said, "Oh, let me see what you can do. Just go and research copywriting." So I started researching copywriting. I saw how scripts that were written specifically for radio, scripts that were written for TV, scripts that were written for print ads and generalist and proofreading and all that. And it was more or less creative writing, but you have to template them into different kind of assortments of briefs. So I learned all those within a very short period of time. I started writing creative copywriting scripts. So the next time he visited, he saw me, he saw what I wrote, and he said, "Oh, there's an opening in my organization for interns, copy interns." So he asked me to come, man. And pretty much people who do copyright and people who study mass communication. Yeah. So there were a lot of mass comm and English students there that day. I went, I did my thing, and I was shortlisted as the finalist. I think we're just 2 in the final. Oh, and the other lady
from a science background,
from a science background, I was doing science all the while. So the thing about me, if I commit to do anything, I do it very well. I commit 100% and get into it to the fullest. So that's how they interviewed myself and the other girl, and I still made the cuts because they just wanted one person. And that was how I got into the work with her, Young and Rubicam. I'm a Wonder Man at the time, a Wonder Man advertising at the time, which is one of the WP agencies in about 56 countries, and they exposed me to a lot of resources. At the time, I was pretty much young, but I started working for brands like DHL, and then working for brands like LG Electronics, Metropolitan Motors, Toyota, and lots of other brands that were working, Vestergaard, France, and quite, global brands, taking global resources, from the 1R, the Ogilvy tools, we're already using. I was exposed to brand strategy, brand creative processes, and all, creative brief, brainstorm sessions, it was a potpourri of a lot of stuff, and there was this flexibility. And to now make things even good, when the MD CEO found out that I used to DJ, that I'm a DJ, he loved it. So at some point, there's what we call activation and events that happen in advertising. So even when the activation or they were product launch or event, they didn't just allow me to do the job. I just DJ the job.
Interesting.
Post when I stopped DJing, I was still dragged to come do those jobs. So I might not advertise, we're not talking about, I was still going to do jobs for them. Over time.
Interesting. That's great. I mean, talking about activations that you mentioned, I had a brief stint with one of the leading brewery companies in Nigeria. I worked in Nigerian breweries for about 6 years, and of course, yes, I did work there for. I was in the sales department and all of that. So I did work there for 6 years. But I'm just to your point. I mean, when new products launches, you have these marketing guys. They partner with these big organizations, and then they lead all of these activations, and it's usually very big. And you should have made a lot of money at that time as well. I'm pretty sure you did make.
Not really. I was pretty much at the bottom of the barrel at the time, So, but then I was more or less working like. It's just like now, right now, when you recruit a Gen Z in an organization, they're expected to be blowing hot. We are millennials and we are gradually already. Yes. So Gen Zs are taking over. So at the time, I was more like the Gen Z of that time.
At that time.
So we're put in the fray of so many things, but we're actually ending it.
Crazy stuff. Now let's switch it up a little bit now. It's still very related to what we're having a conversation with. It's what we call artificial intelligence these days. Obviously, with artificial intelligence, the world is definitely moving into a different sphere entirely. I could be somewhere else and I could make a picture of me in a completely different location. If I want to write a letter, something that you would typically brain tax to write a letter properly before now, with apps like ChatGPT, I could just tell ChatGPT, write me a letter, an application letter for a job or a cover letter for a job. I want to, submit a resume and all of that stuff. And ChatGPT will do all of that for you, right? So with artificial intelligence in today's space, do you fear that it might impact negatively on some careers, specifically around, okay, so for example, true story, some years ago, I was in a conference, a sales conference, and one of the directors of the conference was saying or telling us at the time that, hey, technology is coming, right? Like in countries like Japan at that time, 4 years ago, we were saying that you could go to an hotel and you would see a robot. A robot who's going to check you into the hotel. You don't have humans there that would kind of direct your steps, right? Of course, that means if a robot is doing that, the job of the receptionist that used to work there is gone, right? So with artificial intelligence and script writing, copywriting, campaigns, activations, to some extent, do you fear that humans might begin to lose jobs with the invention of artificial intelligence?
So if you go back, I'll take you back a bit to the Industrial Revolution. At the time when America they were brewing beer to drink. They were selling beer in barrels. But at some point, I think it was A.B. Anheuser-Busch that invented the
A.B. InBev, yeah.
Is now InBev bought A.B. Anheuser-Busch.
Where is true?
And now Anheuser-Busch, and then they didn't throw away the Anheuser-Busch. They just called it A.B. InBev. I think InBev is Brazilian.
Oh, okay.
Anheuser-Busch, way back before they bought Anheuser-Busch, it was known as Anheuser-Busch. So this company found a way to start selling alcohol in a different model. They started from corking them in bottles, corking them and keeping them and giving them longevity. Then they also then they realized that selling this alcohol along this east and west coast of America was going to be a difficult task. They were the first to start refrigerating drinks, created refrigeration trucks that were built on train lines.
I worked in that industry for 6 years and I didn't know all of this history. Thank you.
Yeah, it's online. It's online. So just Google about the history of Anheuser-Busch. Even how they created the drink. They are one of their signature drink, which everybody knows today. Budweiser was named after the city Budweis in Czech Republic. Like the Czech Republic, so the city is actually known to produce the best beer in the world. But then they didn't call their beer Budweiser. I think it was Spinner or something they called it. But he now traveled to that city and now named his beer after the city. So that was the side. So if you look at from that time, you see how the Industrial Revolution has swept a lot of local things. At some point, the guys who barreled beer were no more in business. It was the bottlers that were now in business. So that's the thing about transition. And this same company was the first company to create some of the best promotional materials that we still use till today. Like they were doing promotions with the Crown Cock. They were giving free gifts. One of the most peculiar gifts that they gave out at the time was one of the famous paintings during the Confederate War that happened in America. And they gave out those gifts to people. And to today, it's still known as one of the best marketing campaigns that ever happened in America. So back to where we are now with artificial intelligence. I was at the conference this last Saturday, and we had this conversation. And I told someone there, they said she's trying to pivot into business analysis. And I thought that
sorry, just to clarify, this person is currently in the marketing space, right?
No, she's an accountant, so she relocated to the UK. So she came back to Nigeria. She attended that conference, and so we had a breakout session for tech people. And so she was trying to pivot into business analysis. And I told her, I had a conversation with a friend who is a business analyst, and he told me, he said, Ben, business analysis is gradually going away. Do you know that for you to carry out a business requirement documentation now, a BRD, a BRS, you can just put all you first do your elicitation. Your entire elicitation, you can put it to ChatGPT and tell it, provide a BRS with this elicitation. And it will provide the entire document. The rest you can just use just to edit. So companies already now know that even the CEO can sit down on his desk and do his BRS. You know, so people are already pivoting into product management. So people are pivoting into other areas. In 2-3 years from now, that career line,
that career path will also be going into extinction.
So it happened to me as a copywriter. I saw it that copywriters were not respected in the organization. They were seen as, because you just write creative script. The guys that will create those scripts, they see them as the guys who is doing more of the job, and the client service guys are bringing the money. So I started to pivot out of copywriting into social media marketing, brand marketing, and all this, from digital social, then brand marketing. But today, ask me, how many people are recruiting copywriters today in the entire world? So the thing is, you always have to pivot. You always have to prepare and see that this job line is going. So AI is here to stay. Nobody's going to stop what AI is going to do. 1,000%. And the problem about it is that a lot of these guys are just looking at AI from the point of view of NLP, natural language processing, which is what ChatGPT algorithms doing, where you can just type and give me answer. That's just like the list of what AI will do. That's just like the most easiest representation that people can see. AI is also editing videos for people now. Yes. You know, so if the video editor is doing your voiceovers, all of that is also that natural language processing. In core marketing, I can list for you 10 tools. In fact, I did an article on LinkedIn and on my personal website on tools that an AI marketer needs in this age and time. So AI marketing is also a field that is growing right now. So there are tools. I want to do market research. There's an AI platform that will do market research for you. I want to do customer service. There's AI platform that will do customer service for you. And so many things that you do in the marketing. So think about it. Even from your creative process, there are tools, there are AI tools that will do them. Now take that even to the mining industry. So just to the oil and gas. You start to see that this evolution is here. But don't get me twisted. There will always be people sitting at the intersection of AI. Now, AI did not fall from heaven and is not a divine postulation, or is not a proclamation.
Someone created it.
Building models.
Exactly.
So this is where machine learning comes into the fray. People are behind building the machine models and languages that is making AI work. It didn't just fall from somewhere. So tell me, are those people losing their jobs, or they are getting more? You know, so then the people that will now sit at the front end of AI to also make these tools work. For instance, I spoke about AI marketing. AI marketing will not run itself. If you are going to do a market research for a new entry, or for a product entry in, say, Kazakhstan, and I want to sit here to do a market research, I can use AI tools to scope everything in Kazakhstan, do my entire market entry analysis, consumer analysis, market force analysis, look at all the spectrum of the industry. The tool can do it for me, but it's not going to tell itself to do it. Someone will have to be in charge of that, and also drill down that information. So if you are currently going to go into business analysis as a job or a career, honestly, there's no point going into it, because AI has taken your job already in that area. So look for other areas that you can get into that even is as similar to what you're doing. So that's what I'm saying about it.
Yeah, great. And then, I mean, very great insights, specifically around the history of, you know, the beer. I mean, the beer industry, especially how it started from, you know, having beers in big, you know, cans, and then, you know, into bottles, and the evolution. So just to say, technology will definitely always change the space. And even talking about technology, if you see a 2012 car, and a car that was made in 2022, the gap is just 10 years. But if you see the difference in these cars, it's unimaginable. That's just to talk about how technology is evolving even in this our generation.
So you right now would not want to drive a car of 1970.
Oh my God! Personal experience. Personal experience. That was right.
Sorry. You remember there was a time that we used to have clerks and secretaries as a very strong. They'll be typing.
And they were the gods of typing at the time.
A lot of people resisted. No, computer is antichrist. Is this? But then look at where we are. So we need to always. That my philosophy is always embrace it. Be ready to move. Be spontaneous. I can sit here and tell you about 10, 15 other things that I get my hands involved in on the go. As I'm talking to you, I'm running into software testing, cybersecurity, and other things. So that is how you get yourself
evolved. What do you think about cybersecurity? Just quick, since you mentioned the topic already. What do you think about cybersecurity, especially as it concerns this evolution that typically happens around career paths? Of course, some careers would still. I was somewhere recently. A lady was saying there are two jobs that would never go into extinction. I would ask you if this is true as well. She said a gynecologist, people who actually the consultants who actually help women in giving birth, and the pallbearers or people who manage cemeteries or funeral homes. She said those two set of people are guaranteed never to lose their jobs. What do you think about that? Is that true or no?
Yeah, to an extent it's true, at least for the gynecologists. Yeah, but then we are already moving to an era in the world where people are beginning to realign their thinking towards reproductive health. Mm-hmm. So even this conversation is currently going on in the US about my body, my decision, should I do an abortion and all of that. We are seeing much more drugs and contraceptives stopping women from having children for a period of time. We are seeing so many processes. People are rescinding. Even we can also take that to the LGBTQ community and all that. So there could be a time that people will increasingly start to think like, I don't need a child.
And that's already happening.
They don't need gynecologists eventually. In fact, we already have countries in the world that are already struggling with their population. Their population is declining rapidly. And tell me, such a country, how many gynecologists would there be in need in such a country where the population is declining, when people, their largest population group is already moving towards 60, 50, 60, 70, while their youngest population is shrinking, and the same population is not willing to reproduce. So she might not be completely right, but then she's right.
Great suggestion, though. Just that in some of those countries, so what the government would do in some of those countries would be they would then try to get people, and now it's going to lead me to my next question. They're going to get people from seemingly other countries that might be interested in moving to. So, for example, people from developing countries might be moving to some developed countries that actually have that toga of population decline. So people from the developing countries would then come in with their families and kind of help sustain the age bracket that is required, or the labor market that is required to do the jobs, because to your point, the population is ailing. Now, leads me to my next question. Ben, with the wave of Japa that has happened or that is happening in Nigeria, what's your take on Japa, and why haven't you jackpot from Nigeria?
Okay, so before I jump into your Japa question, let's talk about what you spoke about earlier. So even with that, there are a few countries who are already trying to replenish their population, but there are quite a lot of them that are not doing anything about it, and they love it the way it is. For instance, Iceland. It's a very small population. They are declining every other day, but then they're not doing anything about bringing in people. Germany is just starting to do something about it. But so if you look at the north of Europe or the northern hemisphere, most of the countries there, from Denmark, Finland, Sweden, these guys are really not interested.
And are really
they're really not interested in you coming.
But don't you think one slight challenges those countries typically also would have to do with lingua franca? So because so many of these countries that might be interested, or so many citizens from developing countries that might be interested in migrating to this developed world would definitely have a challenge. So for example, if I'm coming from an Anglophone speaking country and I'm supposed to go to Sweden, for example, or Finland or Hungary, some of those countries, maybe not Hungary, Finland, Sweden specifically, Portugal, Czechoslovakia, all of those kind of countries. How do I immediately integrate into those countries when I don't speak the English? Of course, with technology, I can move around a little bit. There's translation on your iPhone or your smart devices, fair enough. But man, migrating to a different country, it's a whole lot of work entirely. It's a whole different level entirely. Then going to a country where you might potentially have a language barrier, it's challenging. Don't you think that might be one of the reasons why, people might not be able to migrate?
I was shocked. Even the Sweden you talk about, Netherlands you talk about, Iceland you talk about, these guys that they speak English. English is taught in their schools. In fact, it's like Berlin. You find a lot of Berliners speaking English. It's just that they still have their local language, but English is widely spoken. In fact, if you go to cities like Rotterdam and Amsterdam, you literally find everybody communicating in English one-on-one. Same with Iceland and other places. So they speak English in those places, and if you can speak English, then you can go. But I think language is not the barrier, because what we have seen with migration over time is that people will migrate to anywhere they are being accepted and where the economics will get better. And then Africa is not pausing on its reproduction. Africa is still producing. India is still producing. And as long as these two continents are still producing much more people uncontrolled, unchecked, there will still be a large wave of migration around the world. Like you said, they will still go to fill the gap that those other guys are not filling. So then back to your question on Japa. What do I think about Japa? The most fundamental, the two things that has led to this current Japa wave that is going on. One is bandwagon effects. Two is bad economic and socioeconomic policies and bad socioeconomics in respective African countries, specifically Nigeria in this context. What we have seen is that the socioeconomics itself has not led to the Japa. It is the bandwagon. But eventually, socioeconomics is now giving credence to the Japa. So, first person in your office leaves, is now in Canada. The other person on your left has left, is now in the UK. This one has left, is now in the UK. So, everyone like, you are wasting their back home. What is on YouTube? They'll start giving you the information on what to do. It's everyone that way. A bandwagon effect has started. That was what led to this Japa wave. But then, some of these people, I've spoken to some people who say, oh, this place is tough. I want to come back to Nigeria. They will tell them, don't try it. Nigeria, they're hot right now. So I've had these conversations with my friends. I have multiple of friends in Canada, the US, the UK. We speak often. And then we talk about these things. So those are the two things that have led to the Japa. And then, the effect of this is that the best of the best, I'll tell you for free that the morale in my organization currently is very low. There used to be a lot. I was talking to one of my ex-colleagues, he's currently in Canada. I think he lives in Calgary. So we're talking last night, and we're discussing about do they do this meeting? I said we don't do that meeting anymore. Do they do that meeting? We don't do that meeting anymore. So, and I thought it was as a result of low morale, because most of all the people who have been around to make those meetings, they are no more there. So most of the people who are just very young people that really they're still learning. So a lot of people, so it has reduced the morale in organizations back home in Nigeria. A lot of organizations are not, even when they are bringing you, they're not confident you will stay. So, and it's the best of the best minds leaving the country. The best of the best minds leaving the country. Yeah. And what we now have left behind will not just be charlatans. It's just like when you look at the transatlantic slave trade that happened. There was no slave merchant that came to Africa and was looking for the weakest. Some of these people died midway on transatlantic routes. Some people died even before they got to Brazil. So they always looked for the most gallant. They looked for the people who were very strong, strategic, good. So those are the people that they want.
From the looks, you could tell. Even the pricing that the slave master would sell, a strong-looking guy is different from maybe the average-looking guy.
That price. If you look at slave trade then, when they arrive on the shores of Americas, those with the very agile look, we bought for bigger money. So 100%. You can see the system took the best. And that's why when you look at the products that African Americans are producing in America, in terms of music, in terms of sports, in terms of the areas where they excel, you can see clearly. Look at the basketball team, all black kids. Look at this track and field. You see that back home in Africa, West Africans also excel in track and field. West Africans also excel in basketball very well. So you look at, but because over there, Nigeria can easily beat the USA basketball team, male and female. But the reason why Nigeria would not beat the USA basketball team is preparation and doing the right thing. The government back home would not prepare. A week to the tournament, they'll start rushing and doing all this. So everybody, you see, some people don't have kits, so those kind of things. But America will not do that. You have grants all through to train. And again, you still have the effect of know me, know you, and they will pick into the team. America will go for the best of the best to make the team. You can see Steph Curry, you can see James, you can see the way those guys were slamming and talking and doing all the stuff.
Of course.
Because they did not this guy was
they've been doing it from the cradle. That's a different. Like, they have a system that works. Like, from the age of 5, 6, some of these guys that have already signified interest in sporting activities have already started. That's the big difference. And parents, I mean, the environment is conducive. Like, it's this conversation that we're even trying to go into is a whole different level entirely. Like, it's a whole different level entirely. Right now, I'm going to ask for your suggestion. I don't know, the Zoom, whatever that I have is just, I think, about 45 minutes time frame. So do we try to wrap up now, and then probably pick up another time to talk about?
It's up to you. Anyone you choose.
Or maybe I'm able to I have some time. I have like another half an hour that I can do. Maybe I might now set up another time, like another Zoom, whatever, so that we can then continue this conversation, because this is going to lapse in like 3 minutes. So just keeping you posted. But it's been wonderful, super wonderful having you here. The Japa syndrome, it's a completely, like, a whole different conversation, and I wanted us to touch base a little bit as well around the politics in Nigeria, the economy situation in Nigeria, what your opinion is about this current government. And then I just wanted us to also wrap up with, what do you think would happen in the November elections in the States between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party? Who do you think is going to win? Do you think the United States is ready for someone of color to become their president again, like within the shortest possible time? So those are the last set of questions I was going to ask you, but this is wrapping up. So I will create another one for maybe another 30 minutes, if that's okay by you, and then we can have the rest of these conversations.
Fine.
Thank you, sir. Let's start this one.
So I have this conversation with one of my friends. He calls me often when there's a political situation in the country, and we'll just talk about the situation. He knows where I stand with regards to Nigerian politics, and I know where he stands. So he will call me, and I told him, I said, brother, let me tell you something. Cast your hope away from the black man to do anything good for you. Whatever we are agitating for, we're just agitating for agitation's sake. Now, I get an instance. I said, tell me one black nation in the world that is doing good. Now, leave the ones in Africa, the ones that are existing outside Africa, the likes of Haiti, Jamaica, Papua New Guinea. In fact, when you look at the history of Australia and New Zealand, you see that there were aborigines who actually were on the land. So Australians that were Britons who came and took over the land, kind of eliminated the people there, took possession of everything.
I just shared that link with you.